$36 million. That is what it cost to build the Richfield Coliseum in 1974, dropped into the middle of farmland and forest, halfway between Cleveland and Akron, in a rural township most Ohioans had never heard of. The man who built it called it the Palace on the Prairie. For 20 years it hosted a miracle, a Rocky, and a shot that broke an entire region's heart. Then in 1994, the Cavaliers moved back downtown. The building sat empty for 5 years. In 1999, it was demolished and handed to the National Park Service, and the 300-acre site was turned back into meadow and woodland. Today, it is a hiking trail inside a national park. There is no plaque. There is no marker. There is only grass where 20,273 people once stood and screamed. This is not just a story about an arena. It is a story about a building that was erased so completely that the forest simply grew back over it. In early 1970, Cleveland-born lawyer and entrepreneur Nick Mileti secured the NBA's newest expansion franchise for Northeast Ohio, establishing the Cleveland Cavaliers. The team began play that fall inside the aging Cleveland Arena, a 33-year-old brick fortress on Euclid Avenue. It was cramped, lacked parking, and sat in a neighborhood many suburban fans avoided. Mileti knew his young franchise needed a modern home, and he believed the future of major sports belonged to the suburbs. During the 1970s, developers across America were moving stadiums away from congested city centers and toward cheap, open land. Mileti targeted Richfield Township, a quiet community of rolling hills and farms situated 30 miles south of Cleveland and 20 miles north of Akron. The selling point was highway access. The proposed site sat directly at the junction of Interstate 77, Interstate 271, and the Ohio Turnpike. Market studies promised that nearly 5 million people lived within a 1-hour drive of this rural intersection. To Mileti, this was not isolation. It was the ultimate regional hub, capturing 2 major television markets from a single central point. On March 16, 1973, heavy construction equipment rolled onto the agricultural tracts of Summit County to begin excavation. Designed by George E. Ross Architects, the project materialized as a $36 million monument of glass, concrete, and steel. The building was designed to an unprecedented scale, offering a capacity of 20,273 seats for basketball and 18,544 for hockey, making it one of the largest and most modern arenas in the nation. Rising abruptly above the surrounding cornfields and quiet woodlots, the sheer size of the building earned it a lasting nickname, the Palace on the Prairie. Yet, this modern colossus sat in stark contrast to its pastoral surroundings. To reach this giant venue, thousands of sports fans had to navigate narrow, 2-lane country access routes like State Route 303, roads originally built for local farm use, completely unequipped for the sudden, concentrated flow of major event traffic. The venue made its public debut on October 26, 1974, with a sold-out opening concert headlined by Frank Sinatra. The very next evening, the arena transitioned to sports. The World Hockey Association's Cleveland Crusaders took the ice as the first hockey tenant, but the young Cleveland Cavaliers quickly established themselves as the building's primary tenant. Within weeks, the quiet rural community of Richfield found itself hosting thousands of spectators who traveled under the cover of night along dark country roads to watch professional sports in the middle of Ohio's rural expanses. The Cleveland Cavaliers spent their first 5 seasons searching for respect, starting with a dismal 15-67 inaugural campaign in 1970. By November 1975, the young franchise was floundering at 6-11, mired in a miserable 9-game losing streak that threatened to empty the brand-new arena. In a bold move to salvage the season, head coach Bill Fitch traded rookie Steve Patterson and Eric Fernston to the Chicago Bulls for aging 35-year-old defensive center Nate Thurmond. Thurmond's arrival sparked an immediate defensive transformation. The Cavaliers rallied behind his veteran presence, launching an extraordinary 43-22 run to finish the regular season 49-33. For the first time, Cleveland claimed the Central Division title, earning its first ever playoff berth. This squad operated without a dominant superstar, relying instead on a selfless, defense-first identity shared by a balanced roster: Jim Chones, Campy Russell, Bingo Smith, Austin Carr, Jim Clemens, Jim Brewer, Dick Snyder, Foots Walker, and Thurmond. The opening playoff series against the formidable Washington Bullets became a legendary war of attrition, featuring 3 games decided in the final 2 seconds and another in overtime. In Game 2, Bingo Smith sank a signature high-arcing jumper with only 2 seconds left to secure a thrilling 80-79 victory, marking the first postseason win in franchise history. The battle culminated in a dramatic Game 7 back in Richfield. The Coliseum was packed with over 21,000 screaming fans. With only 4 seconds remaining on April 22, 1976, and the score knotted at 85, Dick Snyder drove the lane and released a running bank shot off the glass. It fell through, putting Cleveland ahead 87-85. Phil Chenier's desperate buzzer shot for Washington missed the mark, triggering an immediate, wild invasion of the floor. Fans stormed the court and ripped down the basket stanchions in a release of pure ecstasy remembered as the miracle of Richfield. Yet, this peak of suburban glory carried a lingering, bittersweet sting. Just days before the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics, starting center Jim Chones suffered a broken right foot in a routine practice session, stripping the team of its primary post presence. Depleted in the paint, the Cavaliers fought hard, but fell in 6 games. The magic dissolved, leaving fans with a lasting question of what might have been, beginning a long 16-year drought before the city would witness another playoff series victory. On March 24, 1975, the arena floor was transformed into a theater of combat. Heavyweight champion Muhammad Ali arrived in Richfield to defend his title against Chuck Wepner, a contender from New Jersey. Wepner entered the ring as a 40-1 underdog. Few expected him to survive against Ali, who had recently reclaimed the crown from George Foreman. Yet, the fight defied all expectations. In the 9th round, Wepner landed a right hook to the ribs, sending the champion to the canvas. Though Ali claimed Wepner had stepped on his foot, the referee ruled it a knockdown, one of only 4 official knockdowns in Ali's career. Wepner fought through severe cuts, lasting until a technical knockout finally stopped the bout with just 19 seconds remaining in the 15th round. Watching the closed-circuit broadcast that night was a struggling actor named Sylvester Stallone. Inspired by the underdog's refusal to fall, Stallone began writing the screenplay for Rocky that very night. Produced on a budget of just $1.1 million, the film went on to gross $225 million worldwide and win the Academy Award for Best Picture. The rural Ohio arena had become the direct origin point for a massive American film franchise. Wepner eventually filed a lawsuit against Stallone for using his life story, securing an out-of-court settlement in 2006. On May 7, 1989, the Richfield Coliseum hosted Game 5 of the first-round Eastern Conference playoffs, with the series between the Bulls and Cavaliers tied 2-2. Cleveland entered the postseason heavily favored after sweeping Chicago in all 6 of their regular season meetings. The atmosphere inside the arena was electric, but the mood turned anxious in the final seconds of the deciding match. With 3 seconds remaining, the Cavaliers held a 100-99 lead. Michael Jordan intercepted the inbound pass intended for Craig Alo, dribbled to the free throw line, and released a 17-foot jumper over a lunging Alo. The ball cleared the net as time expired. The final score of 101-100 capped Jordan's 44-point night and clinched the series for Chicago. The play became known simply as The Shot, remaining one of the most replayed and painful moments in Cleveland sports history. The image of Jordan celebrating in mid-air while Alo fell to the floor in despair became synonymous with the arena itself. In 1993, the Coliseum experienced a grim echo of this moment. Jordan hit another series-clinching buzzer beater on the same court, this time with Gerald Wilkins defending. A building built to celebrate local victories became permanently defined by the heartbreak of a single opponent. Outside of basketball, the Coliseum's cavernous concrete bowl hosted a constant rotation of sports and spectacles. The NHL's Cleveland Barons arrived in 1976, struggling to fill the massive seating capacity before folding just 2 years later. Indoor soccer franchises like the Cleveland Force and the Cleveland Crunch drew raucous, blue-collar crowds throughout the 1980s, followed in the 90s by the International Hockey League's Cleveland Lumberjacks. Musicians favored the building's surprisingly warm acoustics. Elvis Presley performed one of his final concerts on this stage in 1977, and Bruce Springsteen became a regular fixture, turning the rural arena into a legendary rock and roll pilgrimage site. Yet, keeping a 20,000-seat venue viable in the middle of Summit County required a grinding logistical effort that the local infrastructure could not support. The geographic location that promised regional accessibility instead created massive, routine gridlock. Every major event funneled thousands of headlights onto Route 303, a narrow two-lane country road that was never widened to handle the volume. During the long northern Ohio winters, the situation turned actively dangerous. Situated directly in the path of heavy lake-effect snowstorms, the Coliseum was frequently isolated by sudden, blinding squalls. Spectators faced terrifying drives home along unlit, icy state routes, while touring stage crews struggled to move heavy equipment trucks down the slippery farm roads. These harsh seasonal realities made booking winter dates a major gamble, slowly choking the venue's operational flexibility and exposing the permanent vulnerability of its isolated location. By the early 1990s, the national trend that had swept professional sports franchises into rural suburbs began to turn back toward America's city centers. Municipalities across the country looked to revitalize their downtown cores, identifying sports venues as the primary engines for urban renewal. In 1990, Cuyahoga County voters approved a tax on alcohol and tobacco to fund a brand-new downtown sports complex, sealing the fate of the isolated colossus in the hills. Cavaliers owners George and Gordon Gund decided the franchise belonged back in the city center, where modern arena economics, luxury suites, and corporate sponsorships could thrive. In the fall of 1994, the team officially relocated to the newly constructed Gund Arena, ending 20 years of professional basketball in Richfield Township. This transition stripped the massive suburban structure of its anchor tenant, its main purpose, and its primary source of revenue. The arena's last public gathering occurred on September 24, 1994. Instead of a basketball game, the venue closed with a performance by Roger Daltrey, who delivered a concert tribute to Pete Townshend alongside a 60-piece orchestra. When the last notes of the orchestral performance faded into the rafters, the building went dark immediately. Because of its remote location, the single-tenant venue offered no obvious potential for alternative reuse. The geographic isolation that once promised a regional compromise now left the building stranded, surrounded by farmland and two-lane roads. For 5 years, the massive concrete structure sat completely vacant, a silent monument slowly weathering the harsh northern Ohio seasons as developers struggled to find any viable purpose for its existence. In January 1999, George and Gordon Gund sold the vacant Coliseum and its surrounding 300-acre property for $7.45 million. The buyer was the Trust for Public Land, acting as an intermediary to shield the area from commercial development. The conservation group immediately transferred the parcel to the National Park Service, adding the tract to the adjacent Cuyahoga Valley National Recreation Area. The physical erasure of the arena began on March 30, 1999. Over the next 8 weeks, crews from Independence Excavating methodically dismantled the massive steel and concrete structure. Rather than using explosives, workers systematically cut the steel frames and crushed the concrete panels on site. The heavy debris was pushed into the arena's own subterranean basement level, filling the void where locker rooms and ice-making machinery once stood. By May 21, 1999, the structure was gone. Workers capped the buried remains with a layer of clean topsoil, leveling the 100-acre developed footprint to allow for complete ecological restoration. No physical remnants of the original structure were preserved on site. The Grand Palace that had once gathered 20,000 screaming voices was systematically ground down, buried, and sealed beneath the dirt. Today, the former footprint of the Richfield Coliseum exists as an open meadow and recovering woodland within Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Quiet hiking trails wind directly across the ground where the arena floor once lay, leaving casual visitors with no indication that a 20,000-seat arena ever stood on this soil. There is no monument, no historical marker, and no plaque of any kind. The legendary moments that defined Northeast Ohio sports, Bingo Smith's high-arcing jumper, Dick Snyder's running layup, Muhammad Ali's battle with Chuck Wepner, and Michael Jordan's agonizing buzzer beater are now anchored to a space that has completely vanished. While the Cavaliers eventually captured their first NBA championship downtown in 2016, the site of their first great era quietly returned to the earth. A venue once built with the grand hope of rivaling Madison Square Garden left behind no physical trace, leaving only the silence of native wildflowers, returning trees, and the wind. Today, a quiet meadow stands where millions once cheered. The arena's total erasure reminds us that even our grandest monuments to glory are fleeting. In Northeast Ohio, some of the loudest moments in sports history now live only in the rustle of the trees. What memories do you carry of this lost giant? Let us know in the comments.